Folks, we are live. Welcome to Talking Crit. I am your bartender in the OSR, half of your hosts, Eric Tenkar. And stage, I always get this wrong. Stage right, my left. I have no fucking clue.
Whatever.
Oh, I demonetized everything by saying I dropped the.
Yeah, there you go. Good job.
Who cares? That's bad, Mike. One half or 1/3 is North Texas. And his brother likes to wear speedos. Just throwing that out.
I like the 1/2 of 1/3. Let's keep that. That's good. One half
or 1/3. And below us only because he's our guest.
Yeah.
Joe Bloch, best known perhaps as the Greyhawk Grognard.
Hello.
And the third of 3 cat owners apparently on your screen. My cat at some point
Eclipse would not be denied.
Yeah,
viewers of my videos will recognize Eclipse. He is most often known for being up here where he's going right now. There we go.
Yes, my girl Sadie will walk by with her orange tail later and get in the way.
Yeah, my cat's been bothering me already. I've been gone all day. I've been out of the warehouse, so she's doing her "Hey man, pay attention to me" thing. So she'll probably crawl up here eventually.
Yeah,
bother the hell out of us.
We need to know more about you, Daddy.
More cat talk. Let's have more 2 hours of cat talk tonight. Here we go.
Oh, no.
Let's get rolling. 2 hours of cat talk. We can do it.
And we're not going to do 2 hours of the Dallas Cowboys either. No.
Oh well, no. I don't think Joe wants to do 2 hours of Dallas Cowboys. He's not. It's not Greg Gillespie there. That's Joe Bloch.
Go Pats.
We can do 2 hours on the Jets. Now that'd be awesome.
No, it wouldn't be.
Nothing about the Jets.
Aaron Rodgers, baby.
It would be. Well, apparently the Jets are going to be one of the teams that are, I don't know, covered for that documentary every year that I never watched. I never. Yeah. So they're gonna be. That's gonna be great, man. Let's get to see our.
See how dysfunctional you guys are.
Yeah.
No, we have below us. We have Joe Bloch, well known for probably. I mean, obviously, Greyhawk Grognard. You've been on forever doing blogs and stuff. But he's also known for the Castle of the Mad Archmage. Do you pronounce it Archmage or Archmage?
I say Archmage.
That's what I do too.
That's not Archmage. I say Archmage.
Okay, I have to say Archmage. Well, it doesn't matter. Well, maybe it does matter. I don't know. But
so
this is a project that it's a mega dungeon. Now, correct me when I'm wrong, but this was a continuation because when Castles of the Gig came out, it was only the upper level and the first level, and then Gary passed away before anything else was done, and you were sitting there like, wait a second, we could do this.
Well, I was waiting for the Widow Gygax to continue the series, and then when it was obvious that it wasn't going to happen,
we're still waiting.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I just threw up my hands and said, "What the hell? I'll just make my own," because I needed it for my own campaign. Originally, it was a series of free downloads on the blog, and eventually, I got them all together, cleaned them up, and published it. And that was the Castlevania Archmage. It was.
And I remember those days when you posted on your blog. It was a freebie, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, and people still have them. People still say, "Well, I have the free one." Do I need to get the published one? Is there anything new in it?
It would help.
Well, I mean, Joe might want a couple bucks, but other than
it wouldn't be amiss. But
so and this has been how many years has this come out?
Well, this is the 10th anniversary of the published version. It was going for about 2 years before that. So, but the published version came out 10 years ago. Next year, and somebody in one of my live streams actually asked, are you going to be doing anything for the 10th anniversary? And I didn't even realize it was the 10th anniversary. And then I'm like, of course I am. And then I had to figure out what.
Good idea.
Yeah, I had completely forgotten, and just it blew past me. And then I had the idea of the Kickstarter is going to be a single volume, so it's going to have the stuff that was in the regular book, as well as there used to be a separate map book and an illustration book. Everything's now in one volume, along with all of the published side levels.
Cool.
Levels.
Nice.
And I'm also there was a level being done as part of my Patreon that never got finished. That's in there now, complete. And also, I did a level for the one-page dungeon contest, and that's in there too. So this is everything. Plus, there was the castle environment, the wilderness around it. That was also a Patreon-only thing. So everything that's been published for it up until now is in this one big volume. Plus, I've added stat blocks for all the monsters. And because we hit 35,000, I had a stretch goal. I never do stretch goals, but I decided to do one here. The stat blocks are going to have ascending and descending armor class. So you'll be able to use it either way.
So it's going to be like the OSR Rosetta Stone of bigger dungeons. There we go.
This sounds like something I should back. Oh, wait, I already backed it.
I think you should.
I think I already backed it too.
Now, the other thing is, because this is a 10th anniversary, kind of special thing, it is only going to be available during this Kickstarter. I am not selling these. Yeah, nice. After July, because I want to make it a special. I want to make it a special little snapshot in time. There will be a new version of the castle with the, with the stat blocks and stuff like that. That's coming eventually, but it won't have all the other levels and all that good stuff. So this is a one-time shot, snapshot, and it will, once July is over, you will not be able to get it from me. I don't care how many emails you send me.
I'm going to send you. Have I sent you pictures of me? Would that not work either?
No.
How about I threaten to send you pictures of my brother, and if you don't send me,
I was there. Remember, I've seen some of these.
No, that's great. So that's actually cool. Then, so I used to love that. So this is interesting because Kickstarter has basically become a platform in the last, half a decade, where it's basically a pre-order program. I mean, you can order from the Kickstarter, but if you wait, it's not going to hurt you. You can just order it later. I used to love the days when there was Kickstarter exclusives. Like, hey, through the Kickstarter, we have this, and it's only available for the Kickstarter. That was what made you order the Kickstarter, because you're like, well, I want to get it now. If I wait, I'm not going to be able to get all the cool stuff. And I don't like it.
I don't like to go to Kickstarter unless I have to. And for this, I'm getting new art. It's the whole thing's being re-edited. There's a lot of extra work that's going into this. They're also going to be signed and numbered.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, so they're all coming to my house. I'm going to be signing them, and then I'm going to be shipping them all out. For those people outside the U.S., though, I got a lot of backers who were legitimately worried about the cost of shipping from the U.S. to Europe and stuff. So if you're outside the U.S., you can get a POD copy and just have it sent directly to you, without having to go through me, because, Drive-Thru has publishers in England and whatever, so the shipping's a lot less. So I relented there, but everywhere here in the U.S. and if anywhere in the world, if you want to pay the shipping, it's a signed and numbered copy. Plus, you get a free PDF, because I always get free PDFs of my stuff.
Good deal.
There you go. Well,
very good. And so, what are we looking at? How many levels are we looking at here?
Well, the original dungeon was 13 levels, and this is going to have the wilderness. Those 13. I think it's 17 levels.
Well, your cover says a complete 17 plus level mega dungeon setting.
Yeah, there's some levels that are kind of half levels, so I just put that plus in there to fudge it.
Nice.
Well, it sounds to me this will be useful even if you're not going to run the dungeon, because I have a habit. I like to pull stuff out of published material to use as I need.
Yeah, there's a lot of modularity in this kind of thing, and it's it goes with the territory of a mega dungeon in general. You're going to have set piece rooms and things like that you can just kind of lift out wholesale and put someplace else if you wanted to. Lots of big mega dungeony kind of places have those kinds of things. And especially with something like Mad Archmage, because it's so large, it can't be one big coherent, thing. There's lots of little sub dungeons, and there's factions, and they control this part, and this level is a gladiatorial arena, so there's all kinds of stuff, but it's not connected to the crypts and things. So there's lots of modularity built into this kind of thing.
Well, I was running this monthly with my infamous B team.
I remember.
And listen, these guys were having a blast. They did their monthly updates on their blogs because I gave out bonus experience points. You get 10% bonus on Expo, if you gave me a write-up. And it was interesting to see how you can have 3 or 4 different players all remember and highlight different things because it's what sticks out to, and it makes sense. I mean, in law enforcement, you ask 4 different people what happened here, 4 different stories. They're all the same-ish story, but everybody focuses on something different, and they would all focus on different stuff. But we'd have a blast, and it was like, oh, can we do more than once a month? I'm like, I'm already in a once a week group, and I have to balance my time. But it was a lot. We ran it for over a year, so it was good. It was a lot of fun, and then work got in the way. My hours changed.
Yeah, Jen just sent me a picture of Cockett and Chubbs arresting Lloyd, and I did not need to see that tonight, but I saw it. So I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to be a little distracted the rest of the evening as I cry.
Oh, you got a question, Joe, from John Miller. How much of the dungeon have you played through with your players?
Ooh. Oh, wow.
I can't remember if you addressed this before.
I had a group that was playing through it for about a year and a half, 2 years. One of the players is actually the editor. And in email, she's saying, I remember when we did this. It's kind of cool. They didn't get through the whole thing. That would have been crazy. They got through, if a percentage, maybe half, maybe a little less. But I also I would also play it at conventions, and I would kind of steer the convention game to places I wanted to play test, like big major encounters, like the set pieces I was talking about. So overall, it's been mostly play tested. I'm not going to play test a nest of giant ants. I know how that works. But the stuff that you need play testing. Plus, having that group of players in there just to see how the flow goes. So rather than just play testing a single room or a single set of rooms, the flow of the dungeon as a whole, watching them get lost in places, watching them, their map is screwed up because they hit a teleporter, and seeing how they deal with it. Seeing how they come back into the dungeon, realizing that they have to get past the kobolds on level 1, and seeing how that changed the dynamic. So it was all really, really informative. And there were a lot of practical things from my end as a DM. When I'm running it, I noticed a lot of things that I had done originally that didn't work the way I had it. So I had to rejigger things. So it's definitely been play tested. I could never say it was 100% play tested because of its nature, but it's certainly been, thoroughly play tested.
Yeah, it was. My players were anxiously waiting to come back for the next session to see what was going to happen, and it is a fun house style dungeon to some extent. So
parts of it,
parts of it. So that's like to some extent, but I enjoy that stuff. My party enjoyed the crap out of it because it was just enough to break the to tear down that was it, the fourth wall, whatever they talk about in like media, and to shake things up. I had a blast running that. I had a blast watching my players go through it. So
I'm going to be running it at ShireCon, actually.
Really?
Yes, I am.
If I remember too, there's a lot of inside joke stuff in there too.
Yes, there's a bunch of inside jokes. There's a bunch of anagrams, and that goes back to Gygax, because Gygax used to put that kind of stuff in his dungeons too. Because this is my homage to Castle Greyhawk and the way Gary did things.
Right.
And there's a number of things that I did in here that I probably wouldn't do in another dungeon, but because this is my Greyhawk homage, I felt I wanted to do things a little differently, the way I perceive that Gary would have done it. And there's a few subtle ones and a few not so subtle ones. One of them is a fire elemental princess who's crying in one of the levels of the dungeon. She's lamenting.
Oh, ouch. Ouch.
Things like that,
Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember the subtle humor that was in a bunch of that stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, some of it's not so subtle. But there was, and there's a lot of anagrams of some people that are in gaming that I know, or just regular historical figures. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there.
All right, John Miller has another question for you. Did your players ever encounter the Jeweled Man, and if so, were they able to get his treasure?
No and no. They never encountered him. He's called something different in here because copyright, and I'm trying to. I don't even remember what I called him now. I'm spacing it. Quicksilver is his name in here. Wow. Because the Jeweled Man is copyrighted, or at least could be. So I had to do an equivalent. But no, they never encountered him, nor did they encounter any of the quasi-deities, and they never made it to the Mad Archmage himself.
Hmm.
Well, that's like a mega dungeon, right? It's not supposed to be finished. If it's finished, if you can get to the end, then it wasn't technically a mega dungeon because
that's one of my definitions. Yeah, is that it's by definition you can't finish it. And in Mad Archmage, I've got the Greyhawk Construction Company, which is actually going in there, and they're the ones who create new levels. And if there's like stuff, if there's a place on a regular level that ends, and you'll see like a little construction barrier that'll say GHCC, like a yellow and black thing, and there'll be orcs with construction hats and stuff like that. And that's one way of kind of whimsically explaining, where did this new side level come from? Well, the Greyhawk Construction Company, did it.
I remember those. I had fun with them.
Yeah, I remember Frank Menser used to do something similar to that in his mega dungeon. I can't remember what it was called, but he had a cleanup company that were used to run through his dungeon, and there was a bunch of orcs with hard hats, and they would rope off areas and clean it out, and it's kind of very meta. So
we're talking about the Forest of Doom Part 1 or something.
No, this was the Lich Dungeon that he never finished. He only did 2 levels of.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's finished. He only published 2 levels of it. So
this was the infamous non D&D stat system that they were using.
And worse. Well, the worst part is just the fact that if you're going to publish a mega dungeon, don't publish each level separately. That's not a good idea because it's it's not a good idea.
Your party can wait for 1d4 years for the next part.
We find a staircase to the bottom level. Well, Gary actually did that in Castle Zagig. They had this mist, right? That if you found a staircase or something to a level that hadn't been released yet, there's just this gray mist that you can't enter. And that was that's the mechanic, is that you can't go in because the mist is there, and the mist will be there until your DM buys the next box set. But the whole idea of the Greyhawk Construction Company, for me, the first place I got the idea of it was from a humorous short story in one of the early Dragon magazines. They republished it in the first Best of Dragon, and that's where I got the idea for the construction barriers and stuff like that, was from that short story.
Huh.
I forget the name of it. I could dig it up.
Not needed. So now you've got basically 2.5 weeks to go. You've already surpassed 37,000. So
yes,
nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am not going to make a hard prediction, but you're going to finish well north of 50K in this one. That should be very.
Oh, from your lips to believe me, I would love nothing more. This has been my most successful one. It's blown away any of my others.
Now, do you think that has something to do with the OGL fiasco pushback? With
probably not, because I haven't really mentioned the OGL in the context of this, other than if I'm asked, I say there's no license.
Well, but I'm not even saying for that reason. I'm just saying that as a whole, is there? Do you think that there is an aspect of the larger gaming community that has said, 5e can go, and are now exploring other options?
Oh, without a doubt. That's absolutely. I don't know if that's translated into my Kickstarter specifically, but that is definitely that's definitely a phenomenon. That's definitely happening. Is that I'm seeing it? I've seen a definite uptick in my overall sales for Adventures Dark and Deep, which for those who aren't aware, that's my take on what first edition would have been if Gary had stayed at TSR. So it's got all those new classes that he was talking about in the 80s and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I've definitely seen an uptick in sales about that. So there's that has definitely been a factor in a lot of things. And of course, Wizards is the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to
they just
stupid stuff like that.
If they haven't effed up lately, just wait around a couple minutes and
they'll get there. They're working on it. Bob G says that your success has to do with North Texas. We'd like to believe.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But no, I don't think it hurt, Joe. I mean, so Joe went to his first North Texas. Tell us a little bit about. I mean, you don't have to blow smoke up my ass. If there was something you didn't like, let me know. But it seems like you had a pretty good time there. Everything was going okay. Your booth?
Oh yeah, had an absolute blast. I didn't quite care for the drive.
That's a bit of.
I drove there from New Jersey, and then the drive from down to New Jersey.
That's ridiculous, but yeah,
it was I stayed over in Tennessee or whatever, and as soon as I entered the state of Texas in Texarkana, a guy cut me off and then started screaming at me and waved a knife at me from his car. So that was always was great.
All right,
but other than the trip. Well, I did get to stop at a Buc-ee's, so that made up for it.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, of course.
But the con itself was a lot of fun. It was a nice, smallish con, which it's the right size as far as I'm concerned. It's in that sweet spot for me. Total Con is about the same thing for me, about the same size. Has a really nice feel. Everybody knows each other. It's compact enough that you don't get lost going to find where your game is. It's just it's a nice, solid, really, really pleasant experience.
Yeah, we have a lot of people tell us it's like cons used to be. And it's like I remember cons in the 80s. When I went to cons in the 80s, that's about what they were. They're about 500 to 1,000 people, and you hung out and you knew a lot of the people there, and it was kind of a mixture of stuff. That's kind of how I remember cons back in the good old days. We had a lot of people say this is very much a throwback to those kind of days, and that's why we keep it the size we do, because we like that whole feel,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely because I'm coming off of going to PAX Unplugged, which was in Philly last December, and the comparison. I mean, it's not even a comparison. It's just they're two different animals. And obviously I've been to GaryCon a bunch of times, and even GaryCon gets large to the point where it loses kind of its cohesion from a fan's point of view. In a couple,
the problem just being with GaryCon, it's a great con, but it's in this one area that it can't expand. It can't get any bigger. There's nowhere else to put people or to put stuff. That it's what it is. And so that sucks if you're thinking, well, I'd like to have a couple hundred more people there. Well, you really can't. I mean, it's getting kind of jam packed already. It was when the last year I went, which was pre-COVID. It was already. Yeah,
I have a blast every time I go. But you're right. It's just hitting its max. And like I say, Total Con is another con in this kind of sweet spot of a couple of thousand, and it has a really good feel.
Yeah, I think Total Con hits just over 1K, but it has a feeling like North Texas, because you remember people, you recognize people, you're walking through the hallways, saying hello to people as you pass them, as opposed to Gamehole and GaryCon, where generally you're running from one location to the other, and nobody.
In fact, I'm going to another con next weekend. I'm going to Historicon. which is all historical minis down in Lancaster, and it's a big con. It is a very, very large con.
Which one was this? I'm sorry, Joe. Which one was this?
Historicon.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's historical minis. It's in the Lancaster Convention Center. It's very big con, but it somehow, I think it's because it's very focused on miniatures gaming,
right?
That you get a kind of a homogeneity of the attendees. You know, everybody there is, kind of in the same mindset of, I like historical stuff, I like World War II and miniatures and stuff. When you get to one of these larger cons that have RPGs and minis and board games and this and that, it kind of gets diffuse. Yeah. And so you have a lot of different little fandoms almost, sort of, not quite competing with each other, but just kind of sharing the same space with each other. And a lot of times they don't mix a lot.
Right.
I've seen that too, where you get like LARPers will just stay together, even though they're in the middle of a bigger con all weekend long. Even, not that the LARP is going all weekend, but like, the LARPing community sticks together. And I think it's the same way. A lot of times it's the same way with the OSR. The OSR community will kind of tend to glom together.
Right.
When you have a con like North Texas that kind of caters to that, it's the best of all worlds.
Because they're all old school. And that is true. I mean, GaryCon you could say GaryCon splits between 5e and OSR, but 5e pays the bills.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. And North Texas, your vendors are pretty much all gaming vendors. They're all giving gaming material. When you get to the larger cons, now you got people selling gaming tables and fake weaponry and
the leather stuff. I've seen more and more people selling tchotchkes.
Yes.
Than gaming stuff at con. It's been a definite trend over the last 10 years is that more and more crafts are being sold rather than game stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And that always gets me too, because I know that I've been to a couple of conventions where these are kind of like more like off-brand local type conventions. You go in there, and out of the 16 tables there's only 2 tables with games. The rest of them have armor and jewelry and perfume and dice.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a con near here, MEPACon, which is in Pennsylvania that I go to. And that's exactly the same way. It's like me and one other, and there's like a game retail, big game retail thing. But they don't have any other real publishers.
Uh-huh.
They got a lot of, crafty stuff and people selling spinner widgets and stuff, and which are fine. They're nice people. But it's a gaming con. Let's get some more gaming stuff.
Yeah, I agree, and it's weird because I think that's why Gary and I are real selective about vendors, because you can get too much into that. You can have too many off-brand things, and then you don't, like you said about identity. So a few years ago, we went to Gamehole Con with Frog God, and of the tables there was us, there was Pace Setter, and I believe Chaosium was there. Other than that, there was nobody. Well, there was Noble Knight. Noble Knight sells like all kinds of stuff. But other than that, every other person, they were selling tchotchkes. They were selling dice. They were selling dice towers. They were selling, just all kinds of crazy stuff, bags, this and that. And we did great that convention. This is probably about 2 or 3 years ago, right after COVID. And we kept hearing from all the other vendors how terrible they were doing on convention. They're like, oh my God, this is the worst convention. And we're just thinking, what's going on? Because we're doing great. And then I talked to Bill at Pace Center. He said, yeah, we did great too. And the thing is, I think it comes down to the fact, when you go to a convention, you only need so many sets of dice, right? I mean, You go to the first booth that has dice, you buy some dice, and you're set. And then you go to the next booth and you buy a dice tower, and you're set. And you both, so you buy a couple of T-shirts, and you're set. You don't keep buying that stuff over and over again. And there was just so mumuch duplication.
I'm gonna call you on that though, because when I was at North Texas, I sold so many dice because I had a bubblegum machine that I had put dice in. I got the little plastic balls, and people would put a quarter in, and they'd crank the thing, and they'd get a die. and people would just keep coming back, and they'd like buy rolls of quarters off of me and just put the whole thing in the machine.
Well, I don't mean that you're not going to sell dice.
No, I know. I wanted to brag about it more than anything else.
I know people that have like these really expensive sets, like 50. Like, how many sets of $50 dice do you need? I mean, you might need one or two, and then okay, I want the metal one, I want this. But after a while, you don't need any more dice. But the people who are actually selling games at Game Hall that year were doing great because you go in there. There's all kinds of stuff. There's all, there's hardbacks, there's modules, there's 5e, and there's Swords of Wizardry, and there's all different things. Whereas, like I said, I went to that con when I went to Game Hall, I thought I would get a nice pin, which actually I have right here. It's a nice Gary Con, because I went to this Gary Con 9 pin, which I went to, and I didn't buy one at Gary Con, so I thought I'd get one there. But I mean, I bought a pin. Okay, I don't need 8 pins, and so I'm through. I'm through. I bought my one pin, and then I roll on. And I think that is a problem when you have all these different things like that, is that people do get disappointed. Vendors do get disappointed because once everybody's made one pass through the hall and bought their pen or their set of $50 dice or their really expensive dice tower, that they're done with that and they want to buy actual D&D stuff, because one thing about North Texas is our vendors always do very well. We tell people that. We say the vendors do really good, and they don't believe us till they get there. And they're like, "Holy crap! I sold more than we heard this from more than one person." Joe, I won't reveal names. They sold more at our con than they did at the Gary Con, and Gary Con has 3,000 people, and we have 500. And then they said they made more money at our con. So
because one thing I noticed at your con, I sold more on Thursday than I did the rest of the weekend.
Thursday's always my best day there because everybody gets there with a big old wad of cash and they're blowing all like, oh, Saturday.
The people who got there Thursday had to take a day off from work specially to be there.
Yeah,
right.
So they're motivated. I literally made more on Thursday than than all the other days put together.
That's always my best day. And Wednesday night I do pretty good too, but yeah, Thursday's always my best day at North Texas. Oh, actually, Thursday is usually a pretty good day almost at any con. You'd be surprised because you go there and that's when people hit the floor with money. It's Thursday. And then by the time Friday and Saturday rolls around, they spent their money on food and this and that. They're getting down to they're counting their pennies. You're like, oh shoot, I got to make this last till Sunday. I don't know if I can spend anymore. And that's at least that's what I've seen at most conventions. So I always think it's a big mistake for vendors to get in late. Like I've seen vendors get in at Friday afternoon. I always think that's too late. I'm always thinking Friday afternoon is just too late because you need to get that Thursday crowd.
Yeah.
Joe the lawyer's and he's like, I dropped stupid money on Tuesday.
Yeah, Raggy told me he did. So Raggy told me, I guess I can say Raggy's name. It doesn't matter. Raggy's not listening. Yeah. So Raggy said he did more at our convention than he did at Gen Con a few years ago, which is insane.
Yeah, I remember saying that. Yeah.
I don't know how that even happens because Gen Con has 65,000 people, but there's also 200, 300 vendors. So yeah, you're splitting your money.
And people at your con know who he is.
Yes,
he's lost in the crowd at Gen Con.
Yeah, he did tell me one thing he said loved about our con was that he didn't have to explain his game to everybody that walked by. He said usually because in Europe or even at Gen Con, I have to explain the game to people. Like, what is Lamentations? And then I have to do my whole spiel. He goes, I haven't had to do the spiel one time this whole weekend because everybody knows what Lamentations is. I said, well, it's true because that's this crowd. That's the crowd. Oh, Joe pops in. He's going to leave. Oh, great. Okay, well, see you later, Joe. Screw you, Joe. Joe the lawyer. On the way back from the gym. Oh, he's trying to impress us now. He's working out. Of course you were, Joe.
Listen, there were a lot of people that looked very healthy. Since Glenn lost a lot of weight. I mean, that hill giant was half the hill giant I used to know.
Yeah, wow. He's looking different. Yes.
Joe the lawyer has been doing very well and getting into shape. So
good deal.
But yeah, it's a good point though. Raggy had stuff that he hadn't sold in a while. So
yeah, I got the extra copy of Veins in the Earth. It's my extra copy because I packed up my other copy and I can't find it. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy another copy. And it was a pretty penny, but I checked on eBay. It was the same price on eBay, so it wasn't no big deal. But it's a great book. And when I find my other one, I'll sell one of these finally. And I know I said this last show, and it just drives me crazy. We paid the money to fly Raggy in all the way from Europe, and I did not get one effing thing signed by him. I had the box set on my desk at home. I had a giant pile of Lamentation stuff at home, and I didn't get one thing signed by him. Just stupidity, just absolute stupidity. I don't think I got Joe to sign anything, and Joe was there. I mean, I I don't know. I was so busy this time. I did not. My signing game was way off this time. Way off. I didn't get hardly anything signed. It was not good in that respect. So I did get Janelle to sign some stuff, and I got Darlene. But honestly, I don't think they'll have a whole lot that's not signed by either of them. I think I've got them. And I've got Errol Otis pretty covered because when Errol comes, he doesn't come off, and when he comes, I'll bring him a stack that big, seriously, and I'll just have him sign. He just sits there and signs everything that he did a cover on. My signing game was way off this con. I'm very disappointed.
But no, overall, I had a blast.
Good. Well, I'm glad, Joe. Well, hopefully we'll see you back again sometime. I mean, I was telling James, I said, we loved having you, but this is probably not an every year thing because that ticket's expensive from, Finland. But he said, oh yeah, because I'll come back whenever you want to do it. This is great. I knew he'd like it because the only American convention he goes to is Gen Con, and that's a separate animal among itself. And that's its own thing. And I said, this is
Gen Con and Origins are there. Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to be your people, and you're going to be able to hang out. And I saw he ran 3 games. He ran the table right in front of my table, and everybody had a blast. And it looked like he had a blast running the game. And he just, you could tell it was kind of like almost like it was a vacation for him. He brought his girlfriend, and he hung out, and he ran games, and he got to talk to people at Lamentations, and it wasn't high pressure, and he made money. It was good. So I was glad to have James. I'd love to have him back. We'll see how I want to try to. I was telling Gary I want to try to get one quote unquote big name guest every year. I've got somebody in mind for next year that's never been, but that I really want to get, and that's and then everybody else and all the other people that can come. But I want to get one, and James is kind of our one big name. I'd want to have James for a long time. I've known James since, forever, and I'd never met him in person, so it was nice to meet him in person.
Yeah, I kind of strained the number of PTO days I have to get down there, so I might have to alternate years or something.
Well, that drive alone, Joe. I mean, come on, man. You may have driven. I'm trying to think if anybody's driven farther than you ever. I mean, I'm not just this year. I'm serious, Joe. Ever, and I am coming up blank. I don't think anybody's driven from New Jersey to Texas before. That's
it was 22, 23 hours each way.
Even West Coast to Texas wouldn't be that far, and we've never had anybody drive from the West Coast to Texas. So that's crazy, man. That is absolutely nuts. I know Lloyd has threatened to drive a couple of times, and I've talked him out of it because his car isn't that good. I don't want him driving the Dragon Wagon, definitely. And so I've talked about driving from Maine, which that would be a hell of a drive.
Oh my God, that would have to be like a 32-hour trip.
I don't want to drive to Maine from here.
Yeah, no, neither do I. Total Con is fine. That's about my limit. It's like,
Yeah.
I can do Wisconsin is 2 8-hour days. That's the perfect for me. Michigan, I looked at going to Chaosium Con next year. It's not good. It's like a 10-hour day and 11-hour day. I'm like, nope, that's just a little too far. 2 8-hour days is perfect. I love Wisconsin. I'll go to Gary Con or Gamehole Con, no problem. I
can get to Gary Con in 13 hours, which is about my max.
That's not, so my big thing about driving is I used to drive for a living for years and years and years, 15 years actually. And your acuity starts diminishing after hour 8. And by the time because I see people go like, oh, I'll just drive 20 hours. That is really bad. You shouldn't do that because everything starts decaying exponentially after hour 8. Your reflexes go down, your attention span goes down, you get tired. It's just not, you're dried out from driving in the car, you're dehydrated. And so I try to, if I can keep it 8 hours, it's perfect. And Gary Con and Gamehole are pretty much the perfect amount of time. But I would love to go to Chaosium Con. I'd love to hit that. I've heard really good things about that the last couple of years. So,
oh yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff. I've heard a lot of stuff, good stuff about Chaosium since they saved their asses and didn't let the Kickstarter kill them.
Well, Rick Mines is a great dude. I've talked to him a lot at Gary Con. Gamehole Con. He so I help Alex at the auction, and last year Rick and Jim Kitchen helped with the auction. So I've talked to Rick a bunch over it was Rick and me for a while. And then I I stepped aside for Jim Kitchen because let's face it, Jim Kitchen is the
oh my god,
the gold standard in auction. So I was like, yeah, I'll just sit here and I'll help out these guys in the court over the end of the. But I love helping Alex out in the auction. But yeah, Rick's a great guy, and they have a really good plan for Chaosium. I think going forward, they're doing it. They rescued it from oblivion. It was in big. You don't really understand how much big trouble they were in until you talk to people that knew about how they really had no money for a while. I mean, they could not. They had no money, and they just done the seventh edition Kickstarter, and then the horror on the Onda Express, and they had no money to mail them. They had no money. They had done the product, and they had no shipping money. And so luckily, the founders stepped back in and took over and booted out the people that were running it at the time, and then got everything shipped out. And I think it's been a pretty good last decade or so for Chaosium. So.
Yeah, actually, oh god, which starter set did I just get from them?
The new Kickstarter?
No,
the reprint stuff. That was
I went on that, and it is gorgeous.
Oh, it does.
Listen, the RuneQuest starter is great. The Call of Cthulhu starter set is great. Oh my god, I can't remember which one I saw. I went, oh, I need to grab that, and I can't remember. Oh man, senility is fucking horrible.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, jeez.
There's your chemo brain right there.
Yeah, it's like I can't remember what it is that I just got. Although I did get that. Was it Dragons? Oh God, the one at Free League just kickstarted. Was it the Norwegian Swedish game that got translated to English? That arrived today. I still haven't popped the bubble wrap around it yet, but I swear to God, I see there's stuff that I buy that I know I'm going to use and use quickly. So like I know when I get Joe stuff, I'll be reading it. And then there's other stuff that I put on that side pile to be looked at later. And then like in a year or two, I'll go,
oh yeah,
why did I get this again?
Yeah, I went on the Crossbows and Catapults Kickstarter that just ended. Remember the game from the 80s with the catapults with the little rubber bands, and you'd shoot them at the wall? They're redoing it. I was like, I gotta get this.
Oh jeez. No,
we'll do that in North Texas. We'll get a big.
Oh my God! Well, Doug had that game, and we thought more than once about running it just for fun. And then we're like, "Who wants to clean that up? I don't want to clean up after all that mess is everywhere and all those." Because he had the game. I think it was still at the warehouse. We had that game, and he thought that'd be just kind of a fun retro thing to run. I do like when people run retro stuff. I know Janelle ran Hero Quest several times, which is cool. And then next year, I really want to have. I'd love to run some Ogre and some. What were the three games I wanted? Ogre was one of them.
Fantasy Trip. I volunteered to run the Fantasy Trip.
I can set you up for that. I got some good Fantasy Trip goodies. So, but yeah, Ogre's another one that I'd love to finally get out there because I have the giant Kickstarter and all the giant ogres, and it just seems like there you go. Yeah,
I still have my Ogre minis, my metal ones from the 80s.
Oh my God,
I've got a zillion of them, and
I'm going to do my Rob Conley impersonation here.
I just bought bases for them. I just bought bases to do my minis. So I'm
wait, hold on a second, Mike. Deluxe Ogre. If you can hold the Ogre box up, it is not the Kickstarter Ogre.
No. This is the old. This came out in the I don't know what year. Oh, I got you.
Oh wait, 90s or something like that.
Yeah. Now, I did not buy this. I got that as part of a collection I bought.
Yeah, that's got all the minis in it. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure all the metal minis were in there, which they are. So,
okay.
Somebody will want this. Somebody will buy this from me, but it's.
I'll take it if you don't want it.
Well, I'm not going to throw it in the trash, Joe. I mean, but
I'll drive down to Dallas and pick it up from you.
I could probably ship it, but I don't know what I don't know what they're worth yet. I have to look at prices.
Because I'll definitely.
But I'll keep you in mind, Joe, if you're interested.
Yeah, I'll hoover up any Ogre metal minis I can find.
Yeah, I believe it's complete. I will double check and it's complete. It's got all the stuff in there. Anyway, I pulled this out. This is another one of my garage finds, Eric, that I found because I cleaned out the garage the first time in 20 years, and found some really, really good stuff. This is one of the, oh, hey, I didn't know I bought that however long ago. Maybe I'll just keep it. It looks pretty cool. No, I don't need metal. I don't need metal minis. No. But yes, the ogre. I just think that's a cool set. I'd love to be able to use that at the convention. I think. I think we need to play more games like that at the convention. I do like. I mean, we're pretty much an old school role playing convention, but it's always fun to have mix in some other old school because we played that back in the day. We had the little mini games. You could put it in your pocket or put it in your folder. You're at school and you brought it up to school and
Car Wars.
Yeah, you pulled out your little micro games, and those were fun, man. We played those all the time.
Car Wars was fun because you always had one driver, now a pedestrian, trying to run away as you I disabled the car. Now I get to shoot the driver.
It's points, man. Come on, you're getting the point. You're doing it for points.
Yeah, I know.
Did the Car Wars Super Deluxe Edition ever come out from Steve Jackson Games? I know that there was a Kickstarter for that a while back.
There was. There's a box set.
Yep, I didn't go in on it, but yeah.
And yes, oh god, don't Starfleet Battle. I played Starfire, which was like a simpler knockoff of Starfleet Battles, because Starfleet Battles was just too much stuff going on.
The little mini, the pocket game was great. Yeah. It's a great little game, and then they just kept coming out with stuff, and I much preferred the FASA Starfleet combat game.
That's the one we played when I was kids, the FASA one, yeah.
Yeah.
We played the FASA bridge game.
Got to have something for the science officer to do during combat.
Oh, it's like really, this should be like a solo game. It really feels like that. One person should just be doing everything. But
Bill Barsh ran Starfleet Battles this year for the first time at North Texas, so we'll see.
Really?
Yeah, he had a seminar on it, and he showed how to play, and then they ran a game. So,
cool.
We'll see if that stays a thing or not. So, who knows?
Man, Armadillo Design Bureau. I forgot that.
It was Texas based. Amarillo, yeah. They're Texas based, and that's why we used to. Every time we went to Half Price Books in Texas, there was stacks of Starfleet Battles in there because all the people that lived in Texas. There was a huge. Well, also there's a lot of military installations in Texas, and they love Starfleet Battles. There was Fort Hood was there, a couple other bases, and so anytime you went to a bookstore or a game store around one of those bases, there'd be just tons of Starfleet Battle stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
squad. So the problem with Squad Leader Gun is that you can play the first three scenarios, and once you got into tanks, I'm out because then the math it went up exponentially, and I could not understand what that was.
Are you talking about Squad Leader or ASL?
Squad Leader.
Okay, just regular Squad Leader, I felt like it was okay, but
that's right.
ASL with that
ASL, yeah, that's
binder full of rules. Yeah. Oh my god, love Kingmaker. Do you know that they just published a reprint of Kingmaker with cleaned up rules and new.
Oh wow! Okay, I have to look for that. Kingmaker was a great game.
We played a lot of that in high school, and they just did a redo of it, and it looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it bites monkeys. Yes, it does.
And Dune was the game in high school.
Dune,
the Avalon Hill game.
What?
Really?
That's crazy.
Oh, we love that.
I never saw that game. So I've told this story many times. We had a lunch period when I was in high school. It was like an hour. So you only ate. It was weird how it was set up the high school I went to, but it was an hour long. So you only ate lunch for 15 minutes, but you don't eat lunch for an hour. And so it was a brand new high school. And so there's this gigantic cafeteria. It was supposed to be a junior college, and they turned it to high school at the last minute. And so it was really oversized. And so there was all these tables in the back, and that's where all the gamers would go because you'd eat your lunch in 10 minutes. And then you're like, okay, what am I going to do for almost an hour? And you'd go play games. And so we had Papa Squad Leader. He was the senior guy that had every squad leader thing, knew every squad leader role. And so he had his squad leader table. But as time went on, you had D&D people, but that's where people work on micro games. Anything you could play in an hour. And anything, it's like you could whip out an ogre game. You could whip out an ogre game or any of those like mini micro games in about an hour or so, or a squad leader scenario. You could do a short squad leader scenario in an hour. So that, and when D&D got big, that's when the RPG guys started pushing the Wargamer guys out, because then all of a sudden everybody back was playing, RPGs, because you could play an RPG, adventure and whatever. And then if you just stop there, you just start the next day. You didn't have a game board that was set up, and so yes, the Wargamers came to resent us after a while, because we were getting more and more converts as time went on. So.
Yes, Nuclear War was
Nuclear War. Yep.
Ellen and Nova Game Design's combat books.
I remember when those first came out, and
I was one. Yes,
it was a Gen Con or something, and they were freaking everywhere. Like, just people in the halls would just, because you could mix and match them. Like, I have the skeleton, I have the troll. Go,
I think wasn't Ace of Aces the
Ace of Aces was the parent of it. Yeah.
Yep, I had that too. Okay. Yeah, they were fun. Until you screwed up somehow and got to the wrong page, and you're like, that doesn't look right.
What's going on here? What?
Yeah.
I was right. So I'm sitting there thinking, I know we played TSR mini games there. I was like, no, wait. I graduated in 81. They came out after that. No, they did not. I'm looking, and most of the micro games came out in 1980. So I guess we did play, because I seem to remember playing Vampire and playing Saga and some other the TSR micro games, and yeah, sure enough, they came out earlier than I thought. So that's cool. My memory is not totally decayed yet.
Wow,
those were great too, because they had the little hard case, man. They had that kick-ass hard case. You didn't have to worry about those things getting crushed or anything.
Yes, they were out in 80. I remember getting a bunch of those.
Okay, now somewhere later it says Attack Force 82. So I guess we never played that one. I seem to remember we played Saga. Yeah, Icebergs was 82. Okay, so somewhere later.
Some of the SPI games too. Those SPI mini games like Creature.
Yes.
Anybody remember Creature that Ate Sheboygan?
Yep.
Yes, we love that. Oh gosh, we
game.
played that. Yes, Creature that Ate Sheboygan was great, and you could whip one of those out in an hour too. That was awesome.
We also had games that came in Dragon Magazine. Wasn't the initial green thing? What the Awful Green Things from Outer Space?
Awful Green Things.
Yes,
that was initially in there.
Snitch Revenge.
Snitch Revenge. Was it Kings and Things, or something like that? Which was later published again by West End Games, but the original was an insert in Dragon Magazine. I remembered Dragon Magazine showing you 3D chess and me wanting to build a 3D chessboard. And then I realized I had no skills to build a 3D chessboard.
And you didn't have Spock to play it with either, so it wasn't going to be.
Well, yeah, I am small things. Small things. But yes, it's a hell of a flashback on that stuff. Because it was amazing what would be included occasionally in a Dragon Magazine. These were games that got fully, published in a box. A couple of years later, you getting your free game as an insert.
The
old days when Dragon Magazine would have stuff for other companies' games.
Yes.
Well,
there'd be stuff for Traveler in Dragon.
Dwarves and Traveler. I remember that.
Dwarves in Space. I remember that.
Well, about issue, I don't know, 30 or 25 to about 100. For $3, man, you got your money's worth, because a lot of issues would have a full adventure in there, and the adventures were good. There was some really, really good adventures in the that you pull out of the center. There was a lot of times it'd be games, there was a wide variety of articles, and a lot of them were useful. It wasn't just fluff stuff. It was really good stuff. Like, hey, here's a new way to do experience points. Hey, I remember Leonard Lakofka's Lehman's Tiny Hut was awesome, because he would always have some really cool take on, hey, here's a damage system that's better than the one. I mean, he really did have some really good rules ideas. Unofficial, of course, but they're really good. And then you get like some NPC classes. They'd have the alchemist or the astrologer or the oracle or whatever they had. The archer, and it was that was a good.
And even races, they had the winged folk, which I love. The winged folk.
God, yeah.
Then they had a whole monster section. They had a treasure section, Bizarre the Bizarre.
Yeah.
And it was, and then you got Wormy at the back. So what's better than they ended up with a kick-ass.
No Snarf Quest. Come on.
Well, that was like no. Surf Quest
Wormy was better than StarQuest.
Oh,
That's-
much
I
better.
don't think anybody's going to.
Wormy just never really finished. But now, like making this Greyhawk adjacent, the weather tables, the weather system that wound up in the box set of the Greyhawk was originally in Dragon magazine, and even came with a pull-out like DM screen.
The card stock. Thing, yeah.
There was some there was some very, very nice inserts. I was just auctioning a bunch of stuff. Here's a plug of Alan Hammock's collection on Nortec RPG Con auctions page on Facebook. And I'm going through some of his old Dragon magazines, and I forgot, like, issue 43 had the dungeon design kit. Does anybody remember that? It's this giant wad of like different things you can cut up and like make your own dungeons, but it's paper, because back then they didn't have Dwarven Forge. Right. And it's huge. You can make a whole dungeon with these, and it has like little squares for treasure, and here's a chair, and you could set, we used to use those all the time. We tore that out of the center, and then we cut it up, and we put that, in our dungeons, and it was extremely useful. That's the kind of stuff you'd pay actual money for, rather than just get that free in your magazine.
Oh, Mr. Gunn, that was Strategy and Tactics you're thinking of, not the General. The one, the magazine.
Yeah, Strategy and Tactics had a game. Yeah,
Strategy had Ares with the sci-fi fantasy games in it.
Ares is
still around, by the way.
Ares was really good too. Ares had for SPI. They had a game every issue, and there were some pretty good games in Ares. That they weren't. The problem with the strategy and tactics games is they all pretty much had the same system. They just here's Tunisia, and this issue is about over here. But the Ares stuff was wild. They would have fantasy games. They'd have sci-fi games. They'd have war. I mean, they had every kind of game in Ares, but mostly science fiction and fantasy. But yeah, the Ares stuff was, and the problem with Ares now is that it's hard to find them with the game still in them, because everybody pulled those games out in Ares.
Oh, we played the hell out of it. The SS Pandora.
Oh yeah, the Pandora was a great. That was
monsters on the ship, and
and basically that ended up becoming a box set later. Some of them became box sets. That became a box set later. So yeah, that there were some really good Ares games too. That was a day when they actually had kick-ass utility. You would buy your magazine, and we didn't know we had it that good. We didn't know how good we had it. Did you get a whole
clue? No. JR has a question for the three of us, I guess. What is the name of the Necromancer NPC class? The first non-canon class I read about as a kid. They were death something and could create undead.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
No idea, but the Dragon decks would tell.
They were great. They were great because they were great bad guy NPC guys. And they were called like the death. They weren't the death dealer. Death something. Yeah, you're right. It was death something.
Wasn't it?
Yes. They had some great class. I mean, they had a whole issue one time with like ninjas or something. I used ninjas as bad guys for a while.
Deathmaster. There we go.
Deathmaster. There you go. Yeah.
Yep. I played one of the anti-paladins from, what was it, issue 39?
Oh yeah, that was
the anti-paladin. That great picture of the guy with the black face and everything.
I love that they always tell you, now these are NPC classes only. Never use them. Everybody's like, yeah, whatever. They're just doing it like they're gonna police you from your house and make sure you don't play a death master or a.
What do you mean? This archer class is only for NPCs, although. When they introduced the Bard class in issue 56, it wasn't introduced as an NPC class. It was introduced as a potential player class.
Interesting. I had bad guys that were death masters. I had them anti-paladins, but we had a player that played an archer. It was a pretty good class. Obviously they were really good to hit with bows, but that's really the only way you get that Errol Flynn type, hit all kinds of stuff with them. And they were. So, yes, we used the Archer class. I'm trying to remember what other NPC classes might have used. That's the only one I really remember because I had a friend do that for about 3 or 4 years. He had an Archer. But
you don't remember the Jock?
But they weren't play tested, though. So, you never knew what you're going to get into at higher levels. Or, oh, wait, the Archer can now fire 5 arrows around. Oh, shit. This is nasty.
That's Benny Crow from Hawk the Slayer.
Yeah.
Yes, Pinkertons. to stop you playing the archer class. Sir, this says specifically on the magazine, NPC class only. Fred over here is one of your players. We're going to have to allow this.
So you can play this character.
Yes.
But only as a DM.
We're going to have to pick up your books and take them back to WotC. Sorry.
For correction.
Yeah. Oh,
here's a sticker to put over your section in your book.
Well, so this segue from that. Speaking of WotC, do we have any This Week in Stupid with WotC featured?
We might, Rabbit. We might.
So he's hiding in the stove, eh? Would I turn on again?
I can always count on them to. They haven't screwed something up in 2 weeks, so you can always count on they've done something stupid the last week or so.
And yes, Peter. The early White Dwarfs were really good, and they had a lot of stuff for AD&D and D&D until they didn't, and it was just like we're going to go from day to night. And actually,
have you read that book about Games Workshop that came out? I think this year or last year.
No.
Yeah, it was really a bunch of stuff I'd never heard. I never knew about. It's about the early days of Games Workshop. I can get it off the shelf if people care.
You might have to. Do you remember the name of the book?
That's what I'm.
Well, yeah, because my only problem with White Dwarf is, number one, their print. They must use 0.3 type. It was really their stuff's really tiny. They had really tiny print, and since it was an import magazine, it was actually expensive, and you didn't get the bang for the buck you did with Dragon. A lot of times it'd be an adventure or a game, which is cool, but it was probably half the content of a Dragon magazine. And it was probably about the same price or maybe even a little more because of the exchange rate on those. And another thing is, at least with me, I didn't have a store that carried White Dwarf reliably. I mean, I don't think I completed my White Dwarf collection until the internet came around in the 90s because I just couldn't find those old issues.
It's called Dice Man by Ian Livingstone. Really fast. Ton of stuff I never knew about at all.
Well, I'm gonna have to check it out because can't find it, the original Warhammer white box set, which didn't know whether it was a minis game or an RPG, so it was kind of like it's like an RPG, but you only got like one hit point at first level. It was weird, but it was Games Workshop, so you expect it weird. But oh man, now I just got.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack us. We're going to do This Week in Gaming Stupid.
Oh yes, what do we got? What do we have that's stupid?
Well, we actually have multiple stupids, right? I mean, I don't know if we discussed their if you're gonna do a pre-order through WotC, you must get the bundle. You cannot order a book without getting the D&D Beyond content with it. So this is after
which is more expensive.
Right. Well, this is after raising the price of the books from $49.95 to $59.95, but now the bundle is $69.95. And if you want to get your content, now you get it 2 weeks early. The D&D Beyond content goes live 2 weeks early if you have the digital content. But my suspicion is this is their way to reclaim all those D&D Beyond subscribers that they lost. Force it, even if it's a free account, right? Because people are canceling their free accounts. This brings you into the digital marketplace, gets your pump primed for the VTT next year. And if you're not in the digital marketplace, you're not going to be playing the VTT. That's where they're betting a lot of money on.
Sure.
I would assume.
Well, it's also a way to kneecap the game stores.
Yes.
I mean, you can't get the PDF unless you get it there, and as long as you're going to get the PDF, you might as well buy the book there, and it's going to be 2 weeks early. And
but Joe, remember, it's not even a PDF. It is a digital form that can only be read on D&D Beyond. So it's not like you can port it with you. It's not like you can say, "Oh, I'll print this out at home and make a sloppy copy for myself." You can't.
One of the most puzzling things about this whole move to VTT, which okay, look, it makes sense to them. I understand why they're doing it. Don't agree with it, but I understand why they're doing it. It's just the fact that they're shitting on retailers so badly. And I don't think most retailers understand how bad it is yet. I've talked to the guy at my local game store, and he's just slowly getting an inkling about what's going to happen to him when this new 5 point whatever that's not really 5.5 comes out. And there's a real possibility they may not be getting new material in the store.
Yeah.
I mean that's real. I mean, they don't know yet. They really don't know because they have not communicated to their retailers what they're going to do, and the retailers have no clue what's going to happen. And
on purpose. I mean, that's not a mistake on their part either. This is deliberate.
Absolutely right. And so I just don't that they have to be making some money off retailers, right? I mean, this is dumb to totally.
But they make more selling direct, and they make even more selling electronic because there's no overhead.
Wow,
yeah, that's true. That's the goal. Is they just want to be able to subscribe. Everybody subscribes, and you get $20 pulled out of your bank account every month, or however much it is every month, and they want it to be EverQuest or whatever the new EverQuest is nowadays.
Well, I guess they figure, the people in charge at WotC are ex-Microsoft leaders.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
So they understand.
And ex-Pinkerton leaders too.
Yeah, well, that too. But they understand things like subscriptions, whether it is for the Xbox environment or it's your Office 365. They know that these recurring payments is what keeps, and let's be honest, once you're in the environment, the average person forgets they're in the environment. You could stop using something, and then all of a sudden, a year later, go, I got charged $159 for what?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Or it's not even that, because that gives you sticker shock, and you're motivated to turn it off. But if it's just a small amount every month that you just always see on your card and you just accept, that's even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And, they know that once they get you into the environment, you're already hooked. Even if you're only signing up for free to get your digital books that are part of your bundle, you're in the environment. You've already taken that step. It doesn't take much longer to offer you the next piece of crack. I mean, the next piece that you're going to say, the VTT is kind of cool, and it's only $7.99 a month for the first 12 months. I can lock it in if I get a whole year at once. Otherwise, it's $9.99 a month. But if I do a full year, and then once you've done it for a full year, you're no longer paying attention to what you're doing.
Well, that's what they help. I mean, that's the look. That's there's plenty of companies that make. I mean, Netflix does it. All these companies do that. That they hope that you just don't notice this charge on your card, recurring charge for years and years and years. I mean,
there's a whole psychology behind it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. And they're playing that psychology.
Look at all the people that have health club memberships that haven't been in 3 years, and they don't think about $10 a month off their card until they happen to look at it one day and go, oh, ouch. I've been paying for this for 3 years, and I haven't seen the inside of that health club in 3 years. Oh, darn it.
And you have to go there to get out of it, too. You can't just do it over the phone. Oh, you're going to have to come down here and sign a form.
Well, and here's something that I don't know if too many people have made the connection yet, but it occurred to me, is that once they've got you hooked on physical coming with digital, and then digital coming 2 weeks prior, meaning that it's kind of pointless to get that physical book because you've already had the content for 2 weeks, you've already read it, so what that physical book's going to go right on your shelf.
Right.
Then they've got you accustomed to getting the digital, and physical books become less needed. And once it's all digital, you don't own it anymore. Like you're basically renting it. It's like your movies on demand from Amazon and Netflix. You don't own anything. You're renting it. And since you're renting it, and this has happened with people who purchased Kindle books, You can have a stealth change go on your Kindle book, and you don't realize that they changed something in it,
or they took it away.
Or they took it away, right? Well, what's going to happen with you when they realize, oh, hey, you know what? Goblins remind somebody of the pygmies.
Uh-oh.
So we got to change goblins. We're just going to take them out of the game because kobolds come close enough. We don't even need them. And you go, hey, wasn't there? I'm looking at my monster manual. Whatever happened to kobolds? They're gone, right? Once you're all digital, they can do what they want. These changes don't happen in your physical books, right? And they generally aren't reprinting, the adventures. Like, oh, we had to wipe out the our version of the Gypsy from Ravenloft. So the digital format has been changed. But if I own the book, my book will never change.
Yeah,
that's why I have a dictionary from 1940.
There you go.
Yeah, like this, it's never going to change. But think about this too. If everybody's relying on these digital books and they all have their tablets to play at a table, what happens at a convention with all those people hitting that Wi-Fi?
That's what I'm asking too. I don't. But see, Joe, I don't think they care about conventions really because.
No, of course not. I'm just thinking the conventions better care.
WotC hasn't gone to a convention. I mean, now they finally started going this year, but they didn't go to a convention for 5 years. They didn't care, and so I don't think they care about this either. And because you're absolutely correct, nobody's be sitting around a table at a convention playing on their pads because that's the whole point of convention is face to face, gaming. So I guess I just don't plan on having a presence at convention except for Adventures League, and even then, I don't know.
Even that they don't have to do. I mean, it's all done by their volunteers,
right?
And who knows what they get? Some star gem in their account or something.
Well, they'll get digital books. And here's, listen, everybody knows the dirty secret about digital books is that once you've paid that sunk cost, the initial cost to create the content, there's no further cost to distribute the content. So,
right.
At some point, everything is pure profit. Like in retail, I worked retail for a number of years, and I used to talk to the buyers in my department store, and I got to see how the sausage was made. And I understood then how clothing could go off and be put on clearance, marked down, and then be 75% off, and they're still making a profit because once they sold a certain number at full price or whatever the price they said was going to be the base price, maybe that was 25% off a full price. Once they made their money back, their investment back, everything was pure profit. So even if they're selling something that's a $40 shirt you're getting for $7, you're getting a good, guess what? They're making $7 in profit off you at that point because they've already gotten there. So when you're buying digital content, all right, you're not buying anything physical. Once they've made their investment back, it's pure profit. Unlike books, which have to get printed, there's a cost to the book, there's a cost to ship, there's a cost to store. There's no cost to store digital content.
Well, that's why I always give PDFs with books. If you buy a hard copy of my book, you get a free PDF.
Which is
because I don't feel it's right to charge somebody for something that literally doesn't cost me money. I had to make this anyway to make a physical book.
Right.
So I might as well give it to you because some people find it more convenient.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of built into the system too. I mean, just look at the last year or so. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Skeeter's texting me right now, so I'm confirming he'll be on the show next week, and he's doing the Skeeter thing where he sent me like 8 texts in 1 minute. So I'm sorry. I'm not paying full attention here. That's my bad. And I forget the point I was going to make. I was going to make a point. Damn it! What were we talking about?
PDFs.
Oh, PDFs,
including PDFs with print.
I did have a.
I
was going to say, so Frog God does it too. Frog God, we include the PDF with the book because but it's also a great marketing tool because people think they're getting something for nothing, and they're getting something that normally you might have to pay for. But you're right, Joe. It doesn't really cost you anything. There's no point not including that PDF with the physical product. And we have a lot of loyal fans because we do that. They're like, hey, that's cool. If I buy a Frog God product, I'm gonna get the PDF too. That's great. That is awesome.
Which is why I listen when I even like WotC, when you buy their print on demand book and you want the PDF with it, it's usually like, I don't know, 20% extra to get the PDF.
Oh, more than that sometimes.
Yeah, but some companies are almost full price if you're putting the two of them together, and I find that insulting because
a lot of that comes from academic presses too, because academic presses will charge like 80% of the cover cost of a real book for the PDF.
Right.
They that's not their model. They actively want to discourage it, and that's why they do it that way. They want you to buy the hardcover. They don't care. They don't want you to buy the PDF because in their mind, the PDF is going to be pirated.
Right.
It's going to end up on academia.edu, within a day.
Let me write that down, though. So I think we talked about this in the Friday night show, Eric, and there's been studies shown though that pirate sites don't necessarily hurt the sales of a book, and it's totally opposite way of thinking. You would think, wait, hold on. Anything pirated, it's going to kill my sales, and it's the Starbucks effect. I had to explain the Starbucks effect to Rob Colley, which is hilarious. He didn't know what Starbucks effect was, but it's the Starbucks effect where if it's out there, people read it and decide, because a lot of people will go and buy the product. I will. If I read a pirated PDF, yes, I've downloaded a few of my time. If I like it, I'll go buy it because I want to support the author. If it's something I think I'm going to use every day, and I like the way it looks on my shelf, I prefer reading physical books over PDFs. But sometimes I want to see if it's something I'm going to like. It may be something I don't really want anything to do with. I'm not going to spend $60 for something that I'm just, oh great, this sucks. I don't want to deal with it. It doesn't necessarily hurt you a ton to have pirated material. And the music companies found that out too when they were cracking down on the pirated music, and they,
suing the grandmothers because
they downloaded Perry Como, illegal Perry Como stuff. Oh yeah, you have to pay us $55,000 because it was stupid.
It's a bad optics. But by the way, since we're talking about this, you all did see pictures or photos on social media, I am assuming, of a certain individual who may or may not have gotten a certain website, possibly known as the Trove, taken down, showing off their basic expert compilation.
Is that the definition of irony? Or is that ironic, or is that just
no? I have missed something.
Yeah, Joe doesn't know the story. Tell Joe the story. So
all right. Well, Monsieur Fox, Mr. Zweihander himself, who has been, he was very vocal and very aggressive in getting sites at the Trove taken down, and it's his IP that he was looking to protect. I'm not going to say one way or the other. It's certainly within his right that he bragged about the fact that he was instrumental in getting this site taken down. And then just last week, there's on social media, he apparently, I guess Twitter, because Twitter is certain place where people do a lot of this stuff, was showing off his brand new spanking hot off the press BX hardcover, which, folks, there is no BX hardcover, just so you know. All right, it doesn't. It exists, but it isn't a legal copy. And I know that you can make a copy of your basic rules for yourself, your expert rules for yourself, but this is a PDF that is being traded around with the cover and all everything perfectly set up, so you can go to a site like Lulu and have them print off a personal copy for you. So the book looks professional. So that is not in any way you making a personal copy for yourself based upon the personal stuff that you own. This is something that's floating around the internet, basically, essentially pirated. because Basic Expert is not a single file. It's not a single book. It's just, throwing it out there. That to me was irony. It's why would you show it off? It's a beautiful book. Don't get me wrong. I suspect Mike might be looking for something similar in his endless bag of goodies. I have certainly seen this book in the wild at a convention, and it's a beautiful book. But again, it is technically. Oh, would that be it? Oh. You have yours. You have yours bagged.
Look! I have an illegal copy of the BX. It's a beautiful book, by the way.
Oh, you have a different cover on yours.
Yes, this is a Matt Roberts done cover. It's really, really cool. He puts together some really
That's the limited edition cover.
Yes. Yeah. So it has the BX, it has both the basic and the expert rules in there. So I'm going to tell you my stance on pirating stuff. I would not pirate anything of Joe's because Joe is alive and he's publishing stuff and he's still making money off stuff. Nobody that had anything to do with this book is making money off it anymore.
No, I know.
They're not. But WotC's, if anybody's making money off WotC, and WotC is not publishing this either.
Well, wait. The PDFs are available on drive-through, and you can get them on print on demand.
Once again, Mulvey, Cook, and Marsh are making no money off this.
Oh no, yeah.
I don't care. So
I'm playing devil's advocate.
I know. But I'm just saying is that I have a system where if you're still alive and you're still making money off your work, I don't want it pirated because I don't think it's fair to you. But anything that the original authors are not making money on, which is pretty much everything TSR ever printed, I don't really have a problem with it. I'm sorry. I just don't because WotC's making them. Yes, these guys sign work for hire contracts. I understand that, and but it doesn't hurt me to own something like this. It doesn't bother me one bit. I'm not bothered at all. No. Because I just don't see the harm it's doing to the company with that. Joe's gonna want to get his pirated stuff.
Listen. I don't personally have an issue with anything about except the hypocrisy. Oh yes, well, that's our frontiers. And Joe, you much like possibly me have one of the first printings of it.
But mine is the Czar Frontiers TSAR, which was the second.
No, this I grabbed it because there was like a window of about 18 hours when you could buy it before they stepped on it.
Got the good stuff.
I got mine too.
But you'd be surprised. I mean, Eric, or maybe you probably wouldn't be surprised because nothing in this industry surprises you. I know, but the arguments, life and death arguments I've got in with people over my stance I just gave you is that you shouldn't have anything. Well, but okay, so I own the BX books. I bought the BX books when they came out. I probably have 10 other copies I bought since then. I have the PDF that I purchased. Oh, well, you still shouldn't be doing that. That's illegal. And people will get incensed that you have something like that. They'll get absolutely incensed. And I can't believe you did that. And I'm 60 years old. I get the point now. I just don't care. I don't care about your outrage about me owning a pirated copy of something that's been out for 50 years or almost 50 years, for over 40 years. Doesn't bother me. Sorry, man. And now look, if TSR or WotC was doing something with this, or if Cook or the heirs to Mulvey or Steve Marsh was making money off this, I wouldn't pirate it. I would because I want them to get their money. They put in a lot of. I'm trying to think who else was worked on this. Mulvey, Cook, and Marsh. That was it. Yeah, but I would love those guys to get their money because those guys, they most of them don't have insurance from TSR because they have insurances from the job they got after TSR. They don't.
Right.
TSR didn't. I mean, look at Jim Ward now. I mean, those guys don't have any insurance now. So, But I just don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it. Sorry. I mean, I know people get really incensed to really. I know people in the collector, the collector world that I travel in. They get absolutely. They will blow up at you if they find out you have even a photocopy of something. They'll. Oh my God! I can't believe you got a photo. Because for those who don't really collect a lot of old stuff, especially the digests that were made back in the 70s or 80s, they're very easy to counterfeit or to do fake copies of. Now, people that know what to look for can usually spot
Booty and the
those.
Beasts. You see a lot of those.
Yeah, Booty and the Beast is on Necronomicon, stuff like that. You can do a pretty fair fake copy of it. And there has been some of that stuff running around. But if you know what you're looking for, you can spot it almost immediately. Once again, Errol Otis isn't making any money off Beauty and the Beast, and most of those things have been out of print for 40 years. Nobody's really making a lot of money out of it. Now, I understand. I would not say it's an original because then you're going to get money for false pretenses if you try to sell it. But as a copy, just to show people like, hey, look, this is pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's awesome. Where can I get that? Well, it's really hard. It's super hard to find. It's going to cost you probably $300 or whatever. I don't have any problem with showing people stuff like that. I would never pass off as original, though, and that's the one danger is that somebody was doing something on eBay that got hammered lately. The
identical Gary Gygax signatures.
That was one I saw that, but the other one was somebody is selling reprinted versions of the Gen Con 9 catalog. And people started getting suspicious. This one guy had sold like 5 or 6 of them, and they were in perfect condition. Mm-hmm. Like we're talking about the one they had at the Playboy Club back in 1977, 78. So I mean, these are old. I actually have Alan Hammock's copy. It's pretty beat up. I mean, it's in rusty staples. All these were absolutely perfect condition. And he had sold them for like $600 a piece. I mean, he was selling them for a pretty big price. Finally, people started going, wait a second. Yeah, how many of these do you have? I've seen you already sold 5 or 6 copies. And then he had some story like, oh, well, I had a whole bunch of them back in the day. I threw them all in a box. I had this, that. It just didn't add up. And so that's the kind of stuff I don't think is conscionable. I think that's kind of that's you're really doing a disservice to the hobby because this poor guy someday is going to try to sell that as an original, and somebody's going to point out to him like, hey man, you paid $600 for a reprinted copy. This is not original. I don't think that's right.
Oopsie.
But having a copy for research purposes or to show people or a PDF of it, I don't have a problem with that. If you want to do a PDF of the Gen Con 9 catalog to show people like, look at these cool advertisements and look at the games that were being played, look at the guests. So that's awesome. That was your Fritz Lieber was there, as a matter of fact. So, it's kind of cool to see all that stuff. Like, whoa, Fritz Lieber came to Gen Con. Yes, he did. He loved Gary's wife. He was crazy about Mary, man. He wrote Mary love letters, which I think is hilarious.
Really?
So, he's the one that called her the Pirate Queen. That's where she got the name the Pirate Queen was.
Oh wow,
that's Labor. So yes, he apparently was smitten with her, very smitten with her. And she was a beautiful woman back then too. If you see pictures of her, she was extremely attractive. So yes, that's. But anyway, all that aside, I don't see a problem with that stuff existing just for people who don't want to pay $600. I do have a problem with people who counterfeit them or, print fake copies. But that doesn't hurt me that much. And I got in a big argument with people way back in the day because at one point, because I hang around a lot of collectors and I am a collector myself. Back in the early aughts, WotC released the PDF of the white box. And people screamed to high heaven about that.
Oh, I remember that.
And their scream was about, well, if they release the PDF for the white box, it's not going to be worth anything. They're going to be selling for $10 on the street because everybody just buys a white box to get the rules. And my claim was, I will buy any white box you have, whatever price. If you think the value is going to go down, you're crazy because all the reprints of Spider-Man #1 haven't driven the cost of that down. People don't say, "Oh yeah, well I'm not going to buy a Spider-Man 1 for $80,000 because I could just get the reprint over there." That's not why you buy a Spider-Man #1, and that's not why you buy a white box. You buy a white box to own a piece of history. So the PDF is a different thing. If you have a PDF of stuff, that's great. I don't have a problem with people having PDFs of that stuff. People should be able to see that. They should be able to see the white box rules. And I love the reprint edition they did a few years ago. I think more people wish they'd bought it when it came out, because now those things are going for quite a bit of money. The nice wood box ones they did, those are really nice. Those are a good way of getting the original rules in people's hands.
Yeah, I have 2 of those,
and those haven't driven down the price of white boxes.
No, those boxes are getting up in value. I was like, holy shit, they're worth more than
or brown boxes for that matter. I mean, those things are not going down in value. They are not going down in value. And there's a PDF of the orange B3 out there. And I just saw orange B3 sell for $12,000 there, and there's one up there right now. It's in terrible shape on eBay that's going for about $5,000. So
there's one on eBay that is in shrink.
Yeah, it's terrible shrink too. It's really beat up.
Yeah, the shrink is beat
but it's
up.
Still like $5,000, right? $4,000 or $5,000. So the PDFs don't drive the price down of collectibles, because people want to own a piece of history. They don't. But I still think that there should be available. It's cool that people can look up, because at one point the orange B3 PDF was actually on the TSR site in the late 90s. They actually had it for download, which I think is cool, because people should be able to see that. Because I remember for years when I first got online, you couldn't find that. People were debating why was this banned or why it had been pulled, and there was crazy stories out there. Oh, there's this really objectionable art, or this or this. Nobody knew, because nobody had a copy. Well, now you can look at it. You can say, yeah, there's some terrible art in there, but and it was really badly written and badly edited, so that might have
No, I think it was pulled because it was making fun of the bosses.
It did. I mean, one of the Etton's head is Gary Godcax. It's very obvious. Very obvious. Or were they the Ubu, or the Obos, or what do they call them? Some monster that had 2 heads. Yeah.
Yeah. Classic, folks. Classic.
But you should be able to see that. That should be something you see,
Well, how about something that you shouldn't have to see?
My brother Mosquito? Yeah.
No.
Are we talking about the video game finally?
Yeah.
There we go.
I found a segue.
It took us an hour and a half to get around to the news.
Well, So, listen, I'm going to make the arguments already for the other side. The game's for adults. It's already rated mature. No kid should be buying it anyway. I'm not arguing those points. You're upset because it's 2 men kissing. I don't care.
Well,
okay.
If it was only 2 men kissing,
that's
nothing wrong with that.
Well, what's wrong with
anything wrong with that?
Yeah, what's wrong with the little bestiality? Huh? See, now that's where I step in. Well, it's only a video game, and the argument that could be made is like, well, all right. So if the shape-changing druid changed into a 12-year-old boy, is it only a video game?
Oh yeah, of course. Come on,
is it? So that doesn't make it. So bestiality is fine. It's illegal in 50 states, in most of the world, but that's fine to show, right? Why?
So most of the time, bestiality shouldn't be okay, because, and this is it's not consent. Animals can't consent. We all know that, right? They can't. However, this is a druid shape change to a bear.
Yes.
So there's consent. They're consenting to.
I'm very sure the consent issue is not the problem with bestiality in Western civilization. I'm just going to go out on a limb here.
There was a video with a horse and a woman
getting about consent. That's so animals can't consent, but a druid bear can consent. Yeah, I agree. I'm on thin ground here, but I'm just making the point that, like Eric said, I'm playing devil's advocate.
See, now the problem is, as Eric says, it's illegal in 50 states, and yet in 50 states they teach animal husbandry. So that it's only when when they try to when they catch you at it that you have a problem.
This isn't cow tipping, folks. Okay, this isn't along those levels. All right, it's like, oh, Sweetman cow, knock it over. Oh, horny druid bear. And by the way, this part has I haven't seen this come up in the conversation, but hairy gay men historically, this might not be how they are referred to now, but I know
Yes, they still call them bears. Yes,
they still call them bears. Okay.
Thanks for the confirmation, Mike. I'm glad you're able to give it.
Thank you, Mike.
One of my areas of expertise there is,
I think I would be a bear.
Don't ask how I know it, but I know it. Okay.
But so that was part of the joke that was going on there,
right.
and what I find even more offensive than the idea that a human or human creature-ish is having sexual relations with a bear. The graphics were so bad that was coming up that they had to say not safe for stream and block it, right? Which means it wasn't safe for YouTube to show the scene part after that. They actually do show, and this was pointed out to me by another, they do show male penis in that scene. It's quick, but it's there. Mm-hmm. Which it isn't part of the rating. It's like they warn you, like they don't tell you you're gonna find like it's up like upper nudity, not like
right.
Male sexual organs.
What I don't get is why is there sex in a D&D game anyway?
Exactly.
And I don't care about
it's for gay
sex or why is there sex? You should be killing orcs and you should be riding dragons and
so the
fade to black for the scene.
I will freely admit I'm old fashioned, but I don't want sex in a D&D game. If I want that kind of game, I know where to find it.
There's the argument, which is I think is I can dismiss the argument quickly, is that all the games now have a romantic element, blah blah, except that they all don't. I mean, Fallout is an extremely successful series. There's no romance in Fallout games.
There's no romance in the Castle of the Mad Archmage.
There you go. But there's plenty of video games that don't have romantic arcs that do great. I'm sorry, Call of Duty, there's no romance when you're picking a guy off from a half mile away with a sniper. And so there's plenty of games that have no romance in them. They do just fine. I don't think that's a valid, all the games have romance. No, they don't. Not all of them have romance. A lot of them have the fade to black also. But it's just, the funniest thing was there was a guy the comment on your stream, Eric, that really, really got into it. And I think you know what I'm talking about. He just kept posting these really long, like 8 paragraph long things about this defense. And I wanted to post on there, but I didn't post on there because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. But was that spot the furry without spotting the furry? Because come on, the guy's a furry. You don't defend something that adamantly unless that's part of your lifestyle, and it's obviously he was a furry, and that's fine. If you want to be a furry, fine. But I don't want to have to see it when I play Baldur's Gate. I don't want to see it. And the argument that you have to do a really specific set of this and that to get to this point and this that. I don't care. I mean, what does that do with anything? The fact that I have to do a specific set of circumstances. In other words, I have to want to get there. Who cares? Well,
here's in my mind. The even stupider spot, the video game company executives, producers, whatever, that were running the live stream and the video, they knew exactly which parts they were going to go. There was only one way that was going. Yeah. We will blame the audience on this one. Big joke. That way we don't take responsibility. Oh, fucking shit. You knew where this was going to end. The audience could have gone like, no, everybody's going 3. Oh, I hear 1, yes? Everybody says 1. We go with 1. Total bullshit to blame it on the audience. Yeah. That's already trying to say, we're not taking responsibility that the audience decided to see this. That's what we heard. It wasn't us. We just wanted to fade to black, but they wanted all this. So come on. I mean, you're playing the community as a bunch of fools, and you happen to be making a joke at the expense of a marginalized community, which, I mean, we already hear that, we just had Pride Month last month, and yet you're going to make this big joke that relies upon 2 male elves, one who will transform into a bear, engaging in sexual activity because you knew the audience would go crazy about it because it's so awkward and so raunchy and
so transgressive.
Yes. That was the whole point. And then to have a scene that you can't show on YouTube when you know
They'll get demonetized.
you're doing a fucking live stream. You couldn't tell me that the fade to black wasn't already planned.
Yeah.
Again, no matter what, this was the way it was going to play out. There's no way, and that's why I find even more offensive than what they showed, is the fact that they're pretending that we had nothing to do with. I don't know how we got here. The audience demanded, but yeah, we had a feeling it would get here, so we made sure we had the fade to black for not safe for live stream. Give me a fucking break. That's the real stupid ass part. It's like, oh, we got one over. No, you didn't. But you know what?
Think about how much effort went into this thing before, just into the development of it. They had to script this. They had to storyboard this. They had to develop this and animate this. This went through hundreds of hours of effort to get that scene.
Yes.
This was entirely deliberate on their part. They went into this saying, okay, we're going to have a bestiality scene with a druid and an elf.
And we're going to show it.
And we're going to have a graphic scene depicting this bear man thing. And
bear man cake.
This was a goal. This was one of their requirements when they were developing this game.
Oh, definitely. And it was a requirement to show it on the live stream. They knew we have to show this. This is too good to be missed. People will talk about it. And David Thompson, great point. The audience who wanted it need game romance because nobody loves them in real life.
Well, it's titillation for the point of getting. I mean, look, they've got plenty of airplay over it, because people are talking about it. That's what it's all about, right? It's all about It's all about getting people to talk about their game. So they take this one little tiny part of the game that you probably can't even get to unless you really try to get to it, and they focus on that rather than the whole game. I mean, is the game any good? I don't know. I haven't heard one damn thing about the game except seeing the bear scene. That's all I've freaking seen. Thanks, Eric. I saw the damn bear scene
because that's all you needed to see.
I didn't see the game. I don't know if the game's any good. Is it great? I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Well, here, I got a question for the both of you. We just went through the OGL saga earlier this year. OGL 1.1, what was one of the sticking points that got
that is a great point.
Third-party publishers all upset, right? What got everybody upset? What clause?
The morality clause. Yeah, you're right.
Morality clause. We can revoke your license if you do something that is immoral. Now, folks, who decides? Is Wizards of the Coast saying that bestiality is apparently within their moral rights and clause? I guess so. I mean, that could be it. But that was where they were drawing a line. Even with 2.0, there was still a morality clause. They still wanted. They weren't letting that go. They wanted to make sure that we could revoke this license if we don't like what you do or who you are. But this apparently is fine. Now, I and the internet is full of rumors. I've heard rumors that Wizards of the Coast demanded this scene. I doubt that. Who the hell knows?
I wouldn't. But, how would you even know that?
Right. It's like, well, yes. Can we have a scene of bestiality in there? I don't know how. You'll have to make it work, though. It has to make sense.
Make it tasteful.
It's got to have a. It's got to have a reason.
Yeah, make it tasteful. And by the way, can you make a joke at the expense of the gays? Can you do that? Because we think that's missing from the game. It would make me. I would find it very funny and entertaining if you could include that in the game. I mean, again, that's a clause that Wizards of the Coast was almost willing to die for. Like, we'll give up the money. We'll give up knowing your sales stuff. But no, with this morality clause, we really need to keep this because there are bad actors and they could give a D&D a bad name. Well, there you go. Bestiality, D&D, synonymous. There we go. Self-inflicted wounds, right? This is, Okay, and Bob said, I've been playing the pre-release of Baldur's Gate 3. It plays very well and it's a lot of fun, and I'm sure it is. All right, I enjoyed Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale, that whole series. I'm sure this plays out really well. So why is this scene not just in it, but why did they have to show it to the world? Right? Is it to normalize the idea of bestiality? Oh, let me put it in a video game. Everybody's doing it. All the kids are doing it. You didn't know? So
once again, you have marketing people that mistake buzz for actual, having. I mean, look at. I mean, once again, let's point to Bud Light. I mean, Bud Light. I mean, I just happened to check in on Bud Light this week just for laughs. They're now the number 2 beer in the country. They held number 1 for like 20 years. They're number 2.
Modelo.
They're out of the top 10 now.
Yeah. They're now most popular beer. They've dropped out of the top 10 for the first time like ever. Their sales are down 28%. They can't give their beer away because they chose to focus on a marketing campaign that was out of touch with their customer. And I don't know if this is out of touch with their customers. For all I know, maybe video game. I don't know what video game people are into nowadays. I'm an old man that plays video games. I like what I like. I don't know what the kids nowadays like, but I mean, they play Fortnite and stuff, which I don't play, but it just seems like once again, you have people saying, I'm going to show something that I like. I don't care if our target audience likes it or not. This is something that I'm interested in that I want to push. And once again, it seems like it's kind of a mini disaster waiting to happen.
Right.
Well, Bob says the game is coming out next month, and this has been a huge jump in free advertising. It jumped way up on the Steam chart for sales.
But here's the deal about Steam charts is you can also so there's been games in the past that went way up in the Steam charts, and when it came out, everybody returned their game. So it may just be one of those things like I just want to see the bear scene, and once I see it, I'm gonna return the game because you can return games.
I need to see what wasn't safe for the internet to show. No,
I want to play it all the way through, man, and I want to see what really happens.
I want to find every alternate ending, happy and otherwise.
You want to see Baldur's Spire instead?
Baldur's nuts. Baldur's was it twigs and berries?
No, but let's think about this though. Once again, see the problem with WotC now is that they made the OGL mistake, and now there's been a lot of mistakes that happened that I don't think are their fault. But the problem is they've already screwed up so badly this year. It basically just everything that happens just keeps piling on. I mean, is this really a WotC thing, or is this more of a BioWare? We're going to be tilting.
We don't know how much influence they had on the script.
Right.
I mean, I have to think everything that happened this year. WotC is probably like. What the? Why? Why does this keep happening?
Well, listen. If nothing else, if you are a third-party publisher and the OGL revision scared you, now you should look at this and go, well, their bar for the morality clause must be so high that even Wenger wouldn't hit it. Holy crap.
Well, we all know that morality clauses, they just exist to basically have a reason to get rid of you if they want to, because anything breaks a morality clause. I mean, every sports team has it, and they'll let players beat their wives, take drugs, get into car wrecks. Hell, there's didn't the Ravens a few years ago have a player that killed somebody in a drunk driving accident and he was okay? But if they think your contract's too big or they don't really want you, then morality clause, you're out. I mean, so
you're not playing up to par anymore.
Right. I mean, there was a bunch of Detroit Lions just got booted out of the team because they bet on games, football games. Now, you can actually bet on games if you're in the NFL. You can't call the bookies from the training room, which was these guys were doing. They were calling them from the actual training room. You could go at home and nobody can know that you're doing, and you can bet. You can have your brother place a bet. Nobody's going to know. Now, what you can't do is make a bet yourself. So what did Detroit do? They went through there and they basically cut like 3 or 4 players, but they kept one guy because he was a little better than the other 3. They didn't want to cut him, so he just got suspended. Even though he did the same thing the other 3 did, he just got suspended because morality clauses, all they're there for is for you an excuse to get rid of somebody you want to get rid of. Is what it boils down to. And oh yeah, this guy he broke, because anything you do basically breaks a morality clause. I mean, almost anything. Eric, I could get your morality clause. I could just look at your day, and I could probably find 2 things or 3 things that breaks your morality clause.
Dude, I on the street. I'm sure.
Just look at the midnight auction.
Yes, you went to the midnight auction. Oh, that broke your morality clause, Eric. I'm sorry.
Just showing up in the audience would have
you just showed up and watched it. You participated in the sketch. You were part of it.
Oh, I was done. I'm done.
Yeah, you're done.
Good thing I'm retired.
So it's ridiculous. This whole morality, the morality clause things. But do you remember when the D&D movie came out? You remember the dumb directors had to make this statement that their job was to basically make men look stupid. And everybody was just like, why would you say that? And then we saw the movie. It was Chris Pine was fine. I mean, there was no. I mean, he didn't look any more. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so they made this dumb statement that had nothing to actually do with anything, because I saw the movie. And actually, I thought his character was a good character. He actually cared about his daughter, and he wasn't a dumb father character they have in sitcoms now. They're just stupid that the kids make fun of. No, I mean, he had a character arc, blah blah, and there was no reason to put that in there. And I have to think WotC looked at that and just said, why? And so it's one of those things where, you ever met somebody has bad luck and then bad things keep happening to them. Yeah. And you're like, boy, you sure have a lot of bad luck. I think this is what's going on with WotC this year, that they poisoned the whole pool by doing the OGL thing. And now everything that comes along just looks worse. And they just keep coming along. And
they also invited greater scrutiny on themselves.
Sure. Oh yes, absolutely.
That's part of it. Is we're, people like me are looking for things that might be on the edge, and I'm going to read into it the worst possible way I can. Just because
Eric and I definitely do. I mean, Eric and I have This Week in Gaming Stupid, so we're looking for what stupid thing did you do this week? Oh, look, WotC did something else stupid. And you're right. Any other year that might have just gone on the wayside, but they've already put a bill target on their back with the whole OGL thing this year. And so, yes,
they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Sure. No, they don't. Yeah, absolutely. But I just have to think at this point, they're just throwing their hands up there going, I don't know what else to, I mean, we're over here doing something, and these idiots keep doing things to make us look bad. But I mean, they kind of brought it all themselves. I guess that's the point, is they did bring it all themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. Wow.
I mean, there's some things I totally forgot about. I forgot that whole thing where the directors had to come out and say they write men to be stupid in their movies. And everybody was just like, oh, well, I'm not. And so they immediately, lost 50,000 viewers or however many decide, oh, I'm not going to see the AD movie now because of that. I mean, there was no point in doing that. They didn't give them more viewers. More people don't say, oh, men look stupid in your movie. I'm definitely going to go see the movie now. No, that doesn't happen.
So, Mike, I got a question for you then. When did Kathleen Kennedy become part of the movie studio there? I thought she was over there at Disney.
Well, not for long, apparently, according to the rumors.
Look, she's been rumored to be fired from Disney for the last 3 years. I know, yeah. So, but I just think that I look at. I have arguments with Greg Gillespie about this because I don't think she does anything anymore. I think she's just there because I don't know what she does. I mean, or if she does anything anymore. I think her name's just there, and she's a target for fans to throw darts at now because of the general unsuccess of the whole Star Wars brand, and now I mean, this is not just this is a whole giant problem. We probably have to have a whole show on it sometime. But I don't know if you've looked at the Disney issue this year. Disney just pink slipped 7,000 employees. Mm-hmm. They are bleeding money right now. And
the parks are empty this summer.
Parks are empty. And they said people are loving it that can go because there's no lines. And there's always lines in it. There's no lines at Disney. You just walk up and go through there. And
they're closing up the Star Wars experience thing.
Star Wars experience failed because it was expensive. I mean, it was mega expensive. I actually had some friends that went to it, and they have their doctors. So, I mean, they have the money. But it was not, so they're rebranding themselves. Basically, Disney's rebranding itself as a brand for rich people. They don't care about middle-class people anymore. Disney was a blue-collar, middle-class brand for a long time. It's not anymore, and they're leaning into it. They're saying, look, we're just going to cater to rich people. Okay, if somebody comes to the parks, we're just going to charge people who do show up more, and they'll be happy because there's no lines now. They don't. It's not a big deal. They've lost money on the Marvel superheroes. The movies have been horrible the last 2 years. This last phase phase shit, as I call it, has been terrible. The movies are just not making the money. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was a guaranteed boffo hit. Did okay. It's another great. Indiana Jones, failure. I mean, it hasn't made as much money as the damn Crystal Skull, which sucked. They can't make that money back.
And that came out, 15 years ago?
Oh, my God, yes. I'd forgotten how much money the Crystal Skull made. Crystal Skull made a lot of money. I didn't realize it made that much money. I didn't see it in the theater because I thought looked like it was stupid. I don't like Shia LaBeouf, but this movie's doing even worse because nobody wants to see an 80-year-old Indy jump around and swing on his whip. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Computers can make him look younger.
Oh,
they can rebuild him.
But so there's bad things happening all around for Disney. And these are all self-inflicted wounds. So yes, you look for somebody to be a scapegoat. I guess Kathleen Kennedy is probably a good scapegoat, but it's more than that. It's everybody because look, I don't care whatever Kathleen Kennedy is, she has a boss. Everybody's got a boss. And so if they didn't want these things to happen, the boss would come in and say, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to make this happen. We're not going to make Obi-Wan an ineffectual boob. We're not going to make, they would come in and do it. So they want this to happen. Otherwise they wouldn't say anything. It's like the same thing. I get mad that the Bud Light people blamed the two people they just fired the other day. And it was all their fault because we had to do this. Bullshit. Well, they have a boss. They had a boss. The head of marketing and the other manager got fired. They have a boss, and that boss okayed it. I've worked in corporate America. Nothing happens unless it gets set up the thing. Everybody has to check it off and say yes.
There's a chain of command. I've been part of one. I've seen how that somewhere along the line that hot potato gets passed back down, and it's like, boom, you're it.
I mean, they're coming out. Tell me if this would have happened 10 years ago. So they're coming out with a new Star Wars series, and nobody cares about it. There's zero buzz about this.
Oh, you're talking about Ahsoka?
What now?
You're talking about Ahsoka?
Yeah.
No, not Ahsoka. What's her name? Rey.
Oh, the Acolyte.
There's a Rey series coming out that nobody cares about.
Wait, there's a Rey.
That's a movie.
Yes, the movie. Nobody wants to see. Nobody cares about the character of Rey. Nobody ever cared about her. I feel bad for the actress, but nobody cares about you. You're the least interesting character in that entire. Adam Driver was the most interesting character in that trilogy. You were not. And so nobody cares. I mean, who would have thought that 10 years ago when you said, "Hey, we're going to have a movie"? Oh my gosh, about it's going to be this cool Star Wars acolyte thing. No, nobody cares about it. That's what they've done to their brand. I saw my granddaughter's a huge Star Wars fan, gigantic. I've talked about it before. Gigantic Star Wars fan. We saw Solo in the theater. We loved Solo in the theater. It flopped. It flopped because everybody was so pissed off at the whole general, tone of the whole series. But Solo wasn't a bad movie, but it suffered because it's being linked to all the other terrible Star Wars stuff.
And I loved Rogue One though.
Rogue One was great. Rogue One was a great movie.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to Ahsoka because I want to see what Mickelson does as Thrawn. I think that's really a big part of it is nostalgia for Star Wars Rebels.
And well, think about it. Why is that got buzz and Rey hasn't had buzz? Because Thrawn is one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars lore for the EU, right?
Well, it's basically the live action version of Rebels.
Right.
They're bringing everybody.
Yeah. And so that has nostalgia for people. They've gone back to the past because remember their famous statement as well. We didn't have anything to work with, so we had to make up all these new characters. Yeah. And then there's there's 20 years of EU novels. What do you mean you have nothing to work with? And so this whole thing that people are interested in that. Why it's like they keep missing the mark over and over again, which is obvious. Just give people what they want to see. This is just Star Wars. And that's the reason I was so, and I will go on and I've argued with people about this over and over that The Last Jedi was the nail in the coffin for Star Wars because the director is a great director. I love almost all his movies, but he made a terrible Star Wars movie because he made a what do you call it? Not subjective. He made a subversive. He made a subversive Star Wars movie. You don't want subversive when you go see Star Wars. You want to see space opera. And you don't need it. You don't need a subversive Star Wars movie. And
you want to see conventional heroism. Absolutely.
You don't want to be, lectured to, spoken at
And this, I'm sorry, I can't remember the director's name, but he's all his movies are subversive, and I like all his movies. I liked Brick was a subversive noir movie. Knives Out was a subversive detective movie. He does detective, but you don't need a subversive Star Wars movie. It's not necessary. Just tell a good, rousing, Errol Flynnish, adventure tale, and that's all you need. And I just don't understand why these guys keep missing the mark over and over again. They think they're smarter, and I'm just astonished that they're allowed to lose so much money. You know what? The movie's getting the most giant buzz of the year. This is going to be the number one movie of the year. It's a new Mission Impossible. I have seen rave reviews from people. You know why? Because Tom Cruise is a lunatic in real life. He's an absolute nut, but he knows exactly what the audience wants.
Yes.
And they want to see a rousing adventure movie with lots of cool stunts and that's what, and he gives people that. And that's what he does.
People use the term fan service like it's a bad thing. It's like, give me what I want, and I will give you much money.
Yes. Fan service is not a terrible thing when that's what people want. They want the Marvel movies the same way. The first phase or two phases of Marvel movies were fan service. They were great. I got to see Iron Man on the screen for the first time in my life. I never thought I'd see that. I felt like I was going to cry after I left Iron Man. There was the Iron Man that I grew up with that I knew that, and then the Captain America and Thor. That was all fan service. That's great. It's not fan service anymore. I don't care about these new characters they're showing in the Marvel movies. I don't give a shit. And I don't care about them. They're not the characters I grew up with. And they've been, so maligned and changed. And now they're just doing D-list characters I don't give a shit about. And so, what there's no fan, give me fan service. Give me some fan service.
I'm enjoying Secret Invasion. It's okay, but it's not nearly as cool as I wanted it to be, or as cool as it could have been, or as cool as the comic was.
Right.
Because they chose to do it in cheaply. The only superhero they could afford was Rhodey.
Well, and what's interesting is you mentioned something really important too, Joe, is cheaply, because people have been saying that they can't pay the CGI guys as much as they were able to pay when they did, I guess, everything up to Endgame. They've cheaped out on the CGI the last years because the movies aren't making as much money. Right. And so you also have this issue where the movies don't look as good even. The last few, I don't know. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Theater. I thought it looked great, but I'm easy to please.
Ant-Man Quantumania is a great example of that.
I didn't see that.
It's a perfect example of what you're talking about. The CGI is really uneven, and that you saw MODOK. You had to have seen the picture.
Oh, it was terrible. That was terrible. Yes. Terrible.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But that's what we're getting now, because that's what's happening. And this is, for people to think that Disney's just made of money and they're going to live forever, that's not necessarily true. They're having issues. Like I said, you don't lay off 7,000 people if you're doing great. It's just not something you do. You try to hire. If you're doing good, you're hiring people. You're building new businesses. You're building new parks. This is not what's going on with Disney right now. And this is all. And to bring this full circle, this is related to what's going on in WotC right now. WotC has the same issue right now. I don't know who they're trying to please with their stuff, but it's not their fans. Because every time I hear fans talk, I don't hear fans going. I do see some fans like, "Oh, it's really cool. They're doing more VTT and this and that." I just don't see that as something it's going to just take the world by storm next year. And everybody's like, "Oh my God!"
What in their mind, they can afford to lose their entire current fan base if they can pull off this VTT thing and make it a new. And get that subscription with millions of people. They have made that calculation that they can make more money with a brand new fan base that they invent with this new online shit, and they can literally every current customer can go away and they would still make more money.
That is a roll of the dice, Joe. That is crazy. I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I do. And Eric and I have talked about that before on the show. But I think that's a nutty roll of dice when you have success within your grasp. Once again, just do what people want you to do. They want to play this game. They don't care about what you want them to play. They want to play this game. And you're saying, no, we want you to play this other game that's going to cost us less money to do because we're not going to have to publish books.
Right.
And nobody asked for that.
Revenue. Because you know what? D&D is under-monetized because we're not getting repeat money out of players. Only the DM, the GM, the players don't. We need a way to monetize them, and we're going to monetize the players by making sure everybody who wants to play in the VTT is going to have to be paying a fee.
Right.
and we want to make sure you're all playing the VTT, even if you're all in the same room, like when we showed off the VTT with Alienware laptops at the same boardroom table.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that one.
That's our vision.
Great social event. We're all sitting there staring at our screens around a table. My God.
Keep that Mountain Dew away from my keyboard.
They have seized the essence of D&D, sitting in the same room, talking to each other via a microphone on your computer.
And of course, no Cheetos. Can't get that cheesy thing. All the stuff that makes gaming at the table, the event that it is, becomes, it's a non-event, man. No. Make sure you have your sippy cup.
With this new regime that they're doing, there's no place for miniatures. There's no place for terrain. There's no place for dungeon tiles. There's no place for crafting your own terrain, making your own build. That doesn't exist anymore in this new thing.
Well, and once again, that comes back to supporting your retailers and supporting people that actually show up at conventions that sell that stuff, like a Fat Dragon Games or something like Tom Tullis's company. That comes back to basically giving the middle finger and saying, thanks for your support all those years, but we don't need you anymore, and we're moving on. We don't.
People who make the crafters. There's a zillion channels on YouTube that show how to make your own stuff. That's completely irrelevant in the new world order.
Well, so that Thraxus posted that. You got to understand, there's a lot of influencers out there, and they're paid to write those articles.
Yes,
so that's an influencer article. Like, oh my
assuming
god,
that it's written by
the greatest thing ever. You're gonna love it. It's influencers. That's what influencers do. That's their job, is to get out there.
That's assuming it's written by a person.
There you go, Joe. You're absolutely right. It could be a really good look. You could have AI write an article, go over with an editor, and change a few words. Didn't sound right, and there you go. Boom.
Oh, I get people in my inbox all the time offering to write content for my site, and that's the kind of content they're going to write.
Yep. D&D is so great online. Take your campaign online. It's a game changer. Yeah, I see people post that. So
I just found a link. I'm going to read that. That to me sounds like an episode waiting to happen.
See, they come to Eric. Eric doesn't have to come to the episode. The episodes come to Eric.
Well, listen. If you can't climb the mountain, bring the mountain to you.
If you can't bring the bear to you, if you can't go to the bear, bring the bear to you. And then when he comes to you, bad things might happen if you're not, prepared. So
if you can't bring the bear back to the mountain.
I was actually more upset that, the bear didn't use protection apparently. So did I say that out loud?
Yes. So it was unsafe sex. Which
that's really upset me. Was that they should know better than that. That bear should have been using protection.
So this isn't interracial. It was interspecies. It was
could be both.
Oh yeah.
And was there any commitment there? I mean, what happens if there's a bear baby event along the way? There's no commitment there.
A half bear baby.
Man, bear, pig. All you gotta do is bring
there's a man, bear, pig out of this. Who supports the kid? I mean, come on. This is not responsible. Come on. No, but all serious. In all serious. Well, you can't even be serious about it. Never mind. There's no all serious about this.
This is that toxic masculinity I've been hearing about.
Oh my God.
It's really interesting that this is what happens when people sit there, and it's been a whole deconstruction of society since the 50s. Remember when people used to believe everything their pastor said, they believed everything their doctor said. We had these really respected icons in our society. And then as years went on, we found out that, there's pastors that you can't trust, and there's doctors that don't know what they're talking about, and there's lawyers. I mean, everything got torn down in our society where the people we looked up to, we don't look up to anymore. And then we were told that the people who run Disney and Warner and Anheuser-Busch, these are the smartest people in the room, man. You can't do what they do. And then we see the mistakes they do that cost not just millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and cost people's livelihoods and jobs. We're like, yeah, I don't get it. Those are not the smartest people in the room anymore. I'm sorry. And so this is the whole, it's just, like I said, it's just kind of this whole continual thing that's going on since the 50s where we torn down society. We don't trust our politicians anymore. We don't, like I said, we don't trust our priests. We don't trust our cops, Eric. We don't. Dude,
I did 12 years in internal affairs.
Yeah.
Believe me. I didn't trust our cops either.
I mean, once everybody got a camera on their phone, then it's like, oops, somebody should have taken cops should have all gone on retreat one weekend, and the guy should have held up a phone and says, this is going to end your career if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And they should have said, oh, okay. Instead, you still have people getting caught on their, phones doing ridiculous stuff. When you
they started passing laws against filming cops.
Right.
Brilliant. Yeah. There's an answer.
Wait, if they can't film us, they can't catch us.
It's similar to the cops wearing body cams, right? Cops wearing body cams. That was demanded that cops wear body cams. And when the department was going to it, we were experimenting with it. I was actually in the IB command center dealing with, the handful of cops that had it. Make sure if the case or the complaint dealt with them, make sure we were downloading and grabbing and all that stuff. And then that was that's 2015, 2016. Then we get to 2020, and it was, oh no, body cameras are an invasion of personal privacy.
We can't have a body.
Because the first thing that I learned, I noticed right away, within weeks, was like, wait, before we even start a case, the video just exonerated the cop. The complaint never happened. Now, I'm not saying that people were lying, because people will actually, we know this, people remember what they remember. It's not necessarily the truth as we know it, but they remember what happened, and it doesn't always match up to what a video will show you. And we were finding overwhelmingly that cops' body cameras showed they did not do what they were accused of, or say what they were accused of saying.
Well, it's interesting because I think I've told you the story before, Eric, but the city of Fort Worth is one of the largest U.S. cities that requires all its police officers to have body cams. This became about because several years ago, cops were called to a known gay bar in the city, and they basically hassled the patrons really badly. They beat some up. They were really badly behaved, but there was no body cam. And the only reason that this is ever found out is guys had their phones on and were taking pictures of these phones. And so they lost this multi-million-dollar lawsuit to this bar because they went in and beat people up and treated the patrons. So because of this, the police chief of Fort Worth at the time said, okay, everybody's going to have body cameras in. We're not going to pay out $18 million again because, this happened. So two of the interesting things happened. Number one is what Eric said. It's one of the most interesting things that happened was that complaints against cops went way down because once they found out the cop's body cam was on, suddenly the complaint was withdrawn. That's how many people were basically filing false complaints against cops. And so it worked both ways. Not only that, but complaints against cops went down too because cops were aware of the fact that I'm being filmed here.
Everything I'm doing is being recorded. Yeah. Everything I'm doing is being recorded. I better be the choir boy.
I better speak in really nice terms to this homeless guy, not grab him by the shirt and throw him across the street. I'm going to ask him to nicely go there. But the opposite the other thing that happened too. Then people would say, I'm going to complain about officer blah blah. Okay, so ma'am, we'll pull his body cam. Body cam. I'm going to withdraw this complaint. And so it works to that advantage too. And I think that's one of the great things about one of the great things and one of the bad things about filming is that it does alter behavior. It absolutely alters people's behavior. Now, yes, is there cases where if let's say I'm a CI, I don't want to be talking to my officer and saying Ralph down the street's got a meth lab out of the back of his car. Oh, is your body cam on?
Yeah. Obviously, you're going to pay me with those drugs you found on somebody else, right?
So I can see where there's questions of constitutionality there. You don't want to be on the body cam if it's good. You're going to have to testify in court about this too because you're on the body cam. Oh, I'm dead. The meth dealer Ralph is going to kill me. Great, thanks.
Oopsie. Well, we have strayed far afield.
Look at that. Ty drops in we're even going overtime, and he decides he's going to pop in.
So if the lawyer's in the room, it's probably time to shut this shit down.
It is. It's time to get on out. Yeah.
Even if it is a gaming lawyer or a lawyer that games, I don't know. Joe, thank you for joining us. By the way,
yes, thanks for coming by, Joe. It's great.
It was great to see you at North Texas. It would be great to see you this weekend.
Thank you.
Kickstarter info. He's got the Castle
on the bottom of the page.
Yep, MattArchmage.com will take you right there.
I have already backed it. You should back it. If you don't have it, you're going to need it. If you already have it, it's going to have new material. You need it anyway. So.
Yes, Ty, we're a tough crowd. God damn it.
Well, show up an hour earlier. We wouldn't give you a hard time.
Hey,
dude.
come on,
man.
It's not like you work all that hard.
We were beating up on WotC and Bud Light earlier. Come on, you'd have loved that. And Star Wars and Disney too. We were beating up on Disney, so come on.
Mike, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes.
We Joe is a great guest.
Yes.
Oh, I'm not going to argue. I won't, insult you by arguing.
Oh, well.
And I nailed down Skeeter during the show while I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, you nailed him down.
Yeah, I nailed him down. So Skeeter's on next week. So we will talk about the Annie Awards, and I think Skeeter has got to get some things off his chest. So this will be fun. This should be fun.
It's going to be an interesting one, folks.
Yes.
Trust me on this one.
Because Annie Awards. Oh boy, I can't wait.
By the way,
I'm gonna get this too.
Wizards of the Coast had stopped entering the Ennies, right? Because they were winning every category or being nominated in every category. So they stopped years ago. Yet the Radiant Citadel is on the finalists. So,
interesting.
So I guess there's a little change in their plans. Maybe Paizo will come back.
Well, they need some good. They need some good news. So this is hopefully going to be their good news. They think win.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, a product that was panned universally. So
yes,
whatever.
Woo-hoo. By the way, you can buy that stuff on Amazon, folks. Like big discounts on Amazon Prime Day. Don't worry about my fucking link. I don't even have it here. But
that's a good way to sell it.
You can buy most of these now. These $50 books, they're going to be $60 or whatever. Most of them are like $20 or less. So if you actually do play 5e and you give a shit, spend your money before midnight, because then the lightning deals end. Well, not lightning, the prime deals, whatever.
Ooh.
All right, folks.
Oh, and if anybody's going to be at Historicon, track me down. We'll have a beer.
Oh, all right. Nice.
Yeah, and isn't there an old school con in Philly this year? Or
yes, in January. The Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo. I will be there.
Yeah, Ron Meister's running it. Joe's going to be there. Greg Gillespie will be there. It looks like a really nice up and coming con. It's going to be early January, I believe, right, Joe?
Like the weekend after New Year's.
I might be able to do that one. I could drive there. That makes it very approachable.
Yeah, they just opened up the rooms.
Oh, all right. We'll have to check. All right, folks. On that note, as always, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Next live stream is Friday, the Random Party Generator. Don't ask me what we're going to be doing as a conversation. These guys are already going nuts on about AI. I don't know if AI is going to be this. Oh my God. The text messages have been insane. I mute that text panel on my phone. If I didn't, I would get no sleep and no sanity during the day. Damn. So I just check it automatically every hour or two and go, 57 messages. All right. Let me see where I'm at now. All right, folks. Be good.
Later.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody.